This is episode 13 with Paul Maskill.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
What's up, Men of Abundance? Today's episode is pretty damn awesome, if I say so myself. It is a great conversation with Paul, but before we get into that, I want to remind you that you can get in on the conversation and ask any questions that you may have in that private community. To do that, just go to Facebook and search for Men of Abundance Community. Click on the green button and I will give you access. Or just simply go to the show notes of this episode 013. Click on the link in the show notes and it will take you directly to that Facebook community. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss one single episode. And if you like what you're hearing, go to iTunes and rate and review this show so that it can get pushed up in the ratings and other men can find us that much easier. All right, let me tell you a little bit about Paul before we bring him on the show. Sitting in a cubicle for 12 hours a day while building someone else's business was not Paul's idea of living the dream. So he quit. Then, in 2011, he invested in his first TGA franchise, combining his business experience with his passion for sports. TGA brings golf and tennis to students through after-school programs, summer camps, and family events. Paul grew his business to 4 franchises, impacting thousands of kids, with $420,000 in annual revenue. In 2015, Paul sold his franchises for 6 times his initial investment and 3 times profit. Paul was then hired by TGA and is in charge of business development. Now, that short bio does not explain why I decided to introduce Paul to Men of Abundance, but you're going to soon see why. Paul, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Wally. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Really good.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So you're out in Raleigh, North Carolina?
I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, and the time of recording, it's hot and steamy summertime.
Oh, I don't miss those summers out there. I definitely did not miss those summers. But then I was in Fayetteville for a while, and I was there during one of the hurricanes many years ago, and I came outside one day. The weather there is just so crazy. I came outside one day, and my car was covered in probably an inch of ice.
Wow.
The entire car. I literally had to chip away at the door just to get into it. It was amazing.
That sounds like Raleigh. It could be 80 one day and then it could be 30 the next day, especially in the fall, winter, and spring.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy out there. So I'd give up a little bit of your bio before we start the show, but let's learn a little bit more about you, talk a little bit about yourself, and let's get a little bit personal.
Yeah, so like you said, I'm here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been living here for about 6 years. Before that, I had lived in Chicago. So I used to, as you mentioned, live the corporate America dream for several years in Chicago, and it just wasn't rewarding, wasn't fulfilling. Didn't feel like I was adding any value to anybody, including myself. So I decided to quit and was looking to do something more rewarding, more fulfilling. And that's when I invested in my first TGA franchise. After quitting my job in Chicago, traveled around South America for a couple months, figured out what I want to do. Ended up here in Raleigh and invested in my first TGA franchise. So that was 2011. I was able to impact kids, get them moving after school. It was a rewarding opportunity, and also was able to build a business by the more kids I impacted, the more kids that we got playing golf and tennis after school, the better our business did and the more people that we got working for us. So creating jobs, impacting the community, getting kids active, and giving them life skills that they're able to learn through golf and tennis. So did that for about 5 years, got married along the way, just had a first baby girl got here about a month ago, and sold all my franchise at the end of 2015. And now I'm actually have the opportunity to work with all the franchise owners around the country and world, as well as prospective franchise owners, to help them fulfill their dreams and own their own business, and in a rewarding atmosphere.
So you mentioned that you were in South America. We'll definitely get into that a little bit later, maybe on a personal level, because those were my stomping grounds for about 4 years, running around South and Central America. In fact, my wife's from Central America, from Panama.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, my wife is from Colombia, so pretty close to right next door to each other, actually.
It is. And I actually, my experience with Colombia was sitting on the tarmac at the airport there for a short while on my way to Bolivia. But and we had to pick up some. Of course, I think it was the pilot of the plane that we was in had to pick up like a crate of coffee.
There you go.
I'm assuming it was coffee because we were in a military aircraft.
Yeah, they are known for coffee, so I would not be surprised.
Yeah, it was literally a crate. I mean, a pallet. It was they loaded it on with a forklift. So that was an amazing experience, to say the least.
Wow, very cool.
So yeah, so all of that whole package, everything you just said there, and what I mentioned in the bio, is what really intrigued me about introducing you to Men of Abundance, because here you are living the cubicle life, and then just not the regular story there, not feeling fulfilled, not doing what you want to do, and then getting into franchising, and a franchise on top of that directly impacts the community through the children, and then the physical activity with the tennis and the golf. I mean, you're just the whole package of exactly who I want to introduce to Men of Abundance. But I know for a fact, I mean, it all sounds like roses, and it was fun along the way, and it was all perfect, and you built 4 franchises without any issues whatsoever. But I'm sure that you've got some kick in the gut moments along the way. So share some of those, just the biggest kick in the gut moment that you had along the way when you first got started, or anywhere along the way?
Yeah, so probably it was a combination of both, between personal and entrepreneurial, and it was really, when you graduate high school, or even when you're in high school or even younger, they tell you, what everybody's been telling everybody for the last who knows how long: go to school, graduate, get a good job, and then do that for 40 years. And the kick in the gut was probably maybe a year or two into my corporate life, which only lasted about 3.5 years, when I realized that I had never really questioned the status quo, and I never really wondered why everybody told us to do that. And then when that moment came, it just really made no sense to me. And it was the kick in the gut was really, why did I listen to everybody else and not really question anybody up until now? So that really kind of got the wheels turning, and really learned that you can really do whatever you want if you don't listen to what everybody else is telling you. So that was probably the first kick in the gut moment, just realizing like, wow, I went to school and did all this. And, so from then until I decided to quit, I really just made the decision to learn everything I can while working in corporate America. I mean, I learned a lot of stuff from a technology standpoint, how to work with people, team building, all that other stuff that I was really able to leverage and take to, owning my own business and building that up. But that was probably the biggest kick in the gut of, it took me 20 some years to question the status quo, and I've probably been questioning it ever since, once that moment came.
So that's a good point. Your time in the corporate world wasn't a total loss, because obviously you picked up some very valuable leadership skills and management skills along the way, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I looked at it, from a long-term standpoint of what can I gain from here, from a technology standpoint, how to use all different things and how to, master Excel. And then from a team building and leadership and management and, really taking what I learned in corporate America, the good and the bad, how to treat employees or how not to treat employees, how to build a team and how to build good communication, timelines and everything within a team. That really helped when I was building my own team. When we sold our businesses, we had well over 40 part-time employees and about 4 full-time employees. So, being able to manage that, I really took a lot of stuff that I learned from the corporate world of what to do and what not to do. And then, from a functionality standpoint, like I said, all the technology and everything else that you learn along the way, it just wasn't something that I wanted to do for my full 40 to 50 year career, because there was not much reward, in my opinion.
And what was you doing in the corporate world?
So I was in the finance world. So I entered the finance world probably at the worst time, mid 2007, going into 2008. Oh. And when you see everybody that's been working there for 20, 30 years get laid off, everybody says be loyal to your company. And then when they're laying off people that have been there 20, 30 years and really had no loyalty. They were really getting laid off because they were making more than people like me that they had just hired. It wasn't a very fun atmosphere. I was there from 2007 to 2010, so really, the peaks and valleys of the financial crisis. It was really, I realized that everybody says a job is the safest thing and you're crazy to start your own business, but I realized pretty quickly that if you're your own boss, you are in much more control than if somebody else is in control of your future.
Yeah, and that's kind of a clue when you come into an industry and everybody around you all the veterans are getting laid off. That's kind of a clue.
Yeah, that was probably the moment where I was like, okay, I really need to. I want to be in control of my final destiny. I want to do something that's fun, rewarding, and I can build something versus building somebody else's business, and then really just being a number in a giant corporation. That, hey, if we need to cut people, it might be you, and it doesn't really matter what you say or do about it.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, if the veterans are getting laid off around you, then obviously, you don't have a strong hold in the company at all.
Exactly. Yeah. You're exactly right there.
At what point did you decide, enough is enough? I've been here 3 years, or probably even before that, you said enough is enough. You just finally got up the courage to venture out, and you said you were learning along the way and gathering the skills that you knew you needed for your exit. But at what point did you say enough is enough and you just pulled the plug and said, I'm out?
Yeah, so it was probably, I started planning for it end of 2009, beginning of 2010, and planning for it was really just saving as much money as I could because I knew I was going to quit my job without having another job because I didn't want to just go to another financial job. So end of 2009, beginning of 2010, started planning, started thinking of what I want to do next. I knew it wasn't living the corporate world and climbing the ladder and doing what everybody else told me to do. So really planned for the next 6 months. And then June 2010 was when I turned in my resignation and packed up my backpack. My wife and I went to Columbia for 2 weeks, and then she came back. She was actually living in Raleigh at the time, so she came back to Raleigh after 2 weeks in Colombia visiting her family, and I decided to stick around South America for another 6 weeks or so and traveled through Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. And really, when you're in places like that, you realize that you don't need a lot to be happy, but at the same time, you only live once, so why do something that you don't want to do? So when I came back, I was determined to not have to go back into that cubicle world, corporate America, climbing the ladder.
Yeah, you just mentioned one of my favorite places in the whole world, and that is Bolivia. I spent some time down there. I absolutely loved Bolivia. And you're right, when you're down in areas like that and you see how simple life is, and quite frankly, they have the reason why I was there was the water droughts. I was there with a bunch of engineers drilling water wells out in the interior in Bolivia. And even in the city in Cochabamba where we were living, you can't have the water on all day long in the houses. Most of the hotels pay dearly to make sure that they have water for their guests whenever they want it, but most of the residents, they just don't. You have your water, and whatever reserve is used up for the day, then that's all you got.
Exactly.
And even for the week, and you kind of take stuff like that for granted. And we have communities here in the United States that have water issues, and either it's contaminated or there's a drought and stuff like that. And in places like Bolivia, that's Tuesday.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's no big deal. So certainly when you come back, like you said, you have a whole different perspective on life, and you're like, why am I going to continue doing what I don't like when I have other options? And you realize that. And that's cool that you finally, figured that out, and you made the proper exit. You saved, you made sure you had the right skills and the education and all that stuff that you needed. So how did you end up getting into franchising? What made that decision?
So I was really just I was looking for a business opportunity that I could run from home and that I didn't take a ton of upfront capital. I didn't want to go into debt. And I had just been flipping through. I was actually back home over the holidays in Detroit and was at the airport flipping through the Entrepreneur magazine looking for, business ideas, startup businesses, work from home, low-cost franchise opportunities, anything like that. And just happened to come across TGA, and when I saw it, I thought to myself, this is probably too good to be true. I'm sure there's already franchises in Raleigh and I won't be able to do it. But lo and behold, there wasn't. And it really was just able to combine my passion. I had played golf my whole life, just loved sports. I had been coaching. When I was in college, I had coached my high school golf team and really just had a passion for kids and coaching. And my sister was a teacher, and that kind of got me, got the wheels turning. And my dad had always coached, all of my sports growing up. And then to be able to combine that passion and that, interest and drive with running my own business and using all the business skills that I had acquired, through the years was just a perfect fit. So that's really how I fell into it. And it was really just appealing to me because I didn't have to do any of the heavy lifting. All the curriculums were built out. All the business systems were there. It was really, I just had to use all the tools that they were providing and build my own business. So that was, kind of how I got into it. A little bit of luck, a little bit of chance. Timing is everything, and made the best of it and turned it into a pretty successful venture.
Yeah, obviously, opening up. So with those 4 different franchises, were they all in the same area? How did that work?
Yeah, so they were all in the Raleigh area. So I started with one. I started with just a golf franchise in the western half of my county. You have an exclusive geographic area. So I was in the western half of our county here in Wake County, and then saw the tennis opportunity with TGA as well. It was a separate franchise, but I had already made all these relationships with the schools for our golf program. They loved it. And, when I approached them, said, hey, we want to bring another lifelong sport to the kids, make it more accessible. We provide all the equipment. All we really need is a place to play. They said, perfect, awesome, let's do it. So we were able to really go to all our current schools and add tennis. So then we were running 2 franchises. And then later on, a couple years later, we expanded to the other half of the county with a golf and tennis franchise. So we owned the golf and tennis franchises in the entire Wake County area, which is, where Raleigh's located. So that's kind of how we expanded. And that's, I ran it as one business, had a couple full-time people in place to man their geographic areas. And then I really just hired a whole bunch of coaches that had a passion for kids, loved golf, loved tennis, wanted to give back and wanted to make a little bit of money along the way.
What's the average cost of starting a franchise? So you can have one or the other with this franchise, with TGA, either the tennis or the golf, or you can have both. How's the price range? And you don't have to get too much into all that, but I'm sure some of the listeners are wondering about that because there's so many different franchises out there. I would have never even known about TGA had I not, ran into your information and, when we first got in contact.
Yeah, so it depends on the demographics of your area, population, and median household income, but the average is between $15,000 and $17,000 to get started. That's for one franchise, golf or tennis. And if say you wanted to do golf and tennis because it made business sense, there is a 25% discount on both of them. So say it's $15,000 each, that'd be $30,000. And then you take 25% off of that, so then you're at $22,500. So to me, it was very appealing because it wasn't a huge investment. I knew I could always sell it if it didn't work out. And to me, the worst case scenario I would just have to go back to the corporate world until I found another business idea, which, in the long run wasn't the end of the world because I knew it wouldn't be long term if I did have to go back to the corporate world. But I was pretty determined to make sure I didn't do it. And, I did have to do it. So actually quit my job July 15th, 2011. So almost 5 years ago that I haven't had to go into a cubicle.
So how long did you have the franchise for before you sold it?
So when I moved back to Raleigh, I got a corporate job for about 6 months just to pay the bills until I got everything up and running. So just saved all that money until I quit my job to start TGA. And then, so I ran them for about 4.5 years. So I quit my job July 15th, 2011, and then sold them all October 15th, 2015. And then from there, I had the opportunity, the headquarters, the franchisor, TGA, saw what I was able to do in Raleigh and, really was able to build an organization, and they wanted to kind of replicate that, take my experience, take what I'd done here and try and replicate it across the country with other franchises. So I really had the opportunity, like we said before, timing is everything. Put yourself in those situations and, you never know what's going to happen. So I had the opportunity to join that team full time. So now I still work from home. I have the opportunity to talk to business owners every day, as well as prospective, franchise owners that are looking at this, see if it's viable for them, and do all the due diligence with them, check out their area, check out the financials, see if it's something that they want to do. So it's, now, even though it's not directly, I have the opportunity to really impact even more kids than I had on a local level because I'm helping, business owners all across the country.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And I'm sure at the end of the show, we're going to get some contact information so folks can contact you and get more of that technical stuff. But I would like to know, how do you feel that you impacted the community? How was the program received by the children and the parents?
Yeah, so the kids absolutely loved it. Golf and tennis, historically aren't as accessible at an elementary level as other sports. They're a little bit more intimidating. If the parents don't play, they don't really know what to do. So the kids really don't get the opportunity to play these sports until much later in life, usually college. And then, they always say, I wish I would have started when I was younger. So the kids love it. About 70% of our kids have never played golf or tennis when they start. And they really love it because basically we had two rules: stay safe and have fun. So it's in a safe environment. It's right after school. The parents don't have to take them anywhere, so it's really convenient. So the parents loved it. The kids are learning life skills. Every class has life skills, character development theme, rules and etiquette lesson, as well as how to play the sport. Depending on the week, they're going to learn a different shot. So the kids have success. They progress through a 5-level program, so there's a sense of achievement. And really, a lot of the kids that love it are ones that just aren't totally into team sports, yet they're doing this in a group atmosphere with their friends, so it's not as intimidating. They really come out of their shell and they really grow as a person. So really, I would see kids and parents and families all the time out and about in the town, and they'll still remember you. Hey, Coach Paul, how's it going? They got their TGA hat on. They're loving it. So it's really a win-win for everybody. We give a lot of money back to the school, so the schools, see it as an opportunity to raise funds for whatever their initiatives are. The parents see it as an opportunity to get their kids active in a convenient way, an accessible way. We provide all the equipment, so they didn't have to invest in any equipment until their kid likes it, and then they can go out and buy their own golf clubs or tennis rackets. And then obviously the kids love it just because it's something fun to do. And the coaches even loved it. A lot of our coaches, when they'd start working for us, they'd say, I can't believe that I'm getting paid to do this, because it's so much fun, because you just see that, that aha moment that these kids have the first time they hit the ball in the air, the first time they hit it over the net, high-fiving their friends, and, having success is really the name of the game. So, yeah, so it's really, really gratifying, really rewarding, and it's, in my opinion, it's a win-win for all the parties involved.
And you mentioned some other skills that the children learn along the way, other than just the sport. You mentioned some other etiquette skills and some other skills. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? That really intrigues me.
Yeah, so TGA is an all-encompassing enrichment program. So they learn every session that they go to your class once a week. So every week they're going to learn a different character development trait. So just an example of some of them, courtesy, responsibility, respect, sportsmanship, honesty. What is it? Why is it important? How do we do it in those sports? How do we do it at home? How do we do it in school? Rules and etiquette are very important in really anything, but golf and tennis, being kind of self-officiated, especially golf, there is no referee, so it's a game of honesty. So you really need to know the rules and etiquette. So every week we have our own rules and etiquette lesson, depending on what the curriculum says. It could be how to keep score. It could be, how to count penalty shots, how to calculate distance. So there's a lot of academic lessons. And now we're actually adding STEM to our curriculum. So science, technology, engineering, math. Very basic. It's all elementary kids, but, why does a golf ball fly further than any other ball? What happens if we change the angle of a racket? Does the ball go up or down? So, they really do learn a lot of stuff, basic history of these sports. So that way when, their parents ask them what they do, or when they're talking about these sports, they not only know how to hit the ball, but they know about the sport, and they really become a student of the game. So it's a ton of fun. They're both lifelong sports, and you learn so much, really in any sport. You learn so much on just how to navigate this world and how to get along with others and perseverance and how to keep going, and how to set goals, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool to watch, a kid progress from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade. You watch them go through your program and how excited they get, and their parents, and then their parents start playing. So it really does become a pretty, full circle type of enrichment program.
Yeah, you just answered the next question I had for you, which is, how do parents get involved? Do they actually get involved in the process during that session, or ultimately, eventually, they get into, on the weekends or in the afternoon or whatever, they're playing with their kids?
Yeah, so the goal of our after-school program is really to give all the kids all the tools they need to go then play at the golf course or play at the tennis courts. And then we transition them with programs. We partner up with local golf courses and tennis facilities to run these type of programs. So you could have parent-child events Those are always a big hit. Family fun days, festivals, play days, junior golf leagues, parent-child golf leagues, parent-child doubles tournaments, that type of stuff in tennis. Really to get the whole family involved. And that's really what they like, because they realize that, there's not many sports that I can play with my kid. And then especially, when my kid gets older, there's really nothing that you can't go play soccer when you're 40, 50 years old as easy as you can, golf or tennis. And it's really just, the beauty of these sports is it's not really age dependent. So grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, mom, dad, brother, sister, cousins, you can all go play golf. You can all go play tennis. And you can be 40, 50, 60, 70 years apart. So we really do, encourage that family atmosphere, make it fun, make it inviting. And really, like we said at the beginning, most of our kids have never played, and most of the kids have never played. Most of the parents haven't. So, there are opportunities to run, adult clinics and that type of stuff as well, because the parents see how much fun their kid's having, and their kid keeps bugging them, let's go play golf, let's go play tennis. And if the parents don't know how, they need some place to learn as well, which is, they already know, like, and trust us. So they'll come to us and say, hey, I want to learn golf just like my kid did.
Well, I'm going to have to check and see if there's a program like that out here in Hawaii.
There isn't yet, but we're always looking to expand, and we do get some inquiries from Hawaii, so you never know.
Yeah, because, I've got a tennis court right here in my community, and there's one for the high school that my son goes to, and I've got a 6-year-old as well, and there's a golf course on every corner.
Nice.
Out here, it's just, they're everywhere. So, everything from the top-ranked golf courses to, the community-type golf courses where you don't have to pay $1 million to be a member.
Exactly.
We're getting ready to get into the Pay It Forward round. You ready for that, Paul?
I'm ready if you are.
Men of Abundance, one thing I want to point out that you may have noticed amongst all of the guests that I've had on the show so far is all of them have some sort of daily habits that they follow, myself included. In fact, for the last 5 years, one of my daily habits that I have not missed is drinking a dense nutrition shake every single morning after my workout. I had never been a fan of any protein shakes or nutrition shakes or nutrition drinks or anything of that nature. I did get into smoothies at one time, but making smoothies, quite frankly, is very expensive and very messy in most cases. But about 5 years ago, my doctor told me that I had to do something about my cholesterol. Ironically enough, as it happens, divine intervention, call it what you want, I was introduced to this dense nutrition shake that completely turned my cholesterol around. On top of that, I had more energy, my esophageal reflux went away, my chronic joint pain wasn't nearly as bad, and I shed some weight, all within the first 28 days. I can talk all day long about what just 30 days of this dense nutrition shake will do for you. But until you try this stuff out yourself, you're going to continue to be as skeptical as I was. The cool thing is you can try Shakeology with absolutely no risk whatsoever. There's a bottom of the bag 100% 30-day money back guarantee. That means you can consume the entire 30-day bag, and if you don't see or feel the difference in your body, or you otherwise just are not completely satisfied, you can send the empty bag back and get all of your money back, no questions asked. And there are multiple different flavors you can try. Now, my favorite flavor is the greenberry and the strawberry. My wife loves the vanilla, and we both like the cafe latte. There's also chocolate, and there's also a vegan chocolate and a vegan tropical strawberry. And there are even sample packs so you can try the various flavors. So to learn more about the benefits of Shakeology, go to menofabundance.com/resources, or just go to menofabundance.com, click on the resources tab, scroll down to the health and nutrition part, and you're going to see the Shakeology tab. Click on that, take a look, and if you have any questions whatsoever, get a hold of me. I'll be happy to help. All right, let's get back to the show. Awesome. You've already shared so much information with everybody. I don't know how you're going to possibly top that, but I'm sure you've got something set up for us.
I'll see what I can do. Fire away.
Awesome. So give Men of Abundance 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can act on today, either, when it comes to starting a franchise or getting out of their corporate cubicle or whatever, job that they're not really in love with. So give us 3 actionable steps.
Yeah. So I would say the first one is super simple. Just take the first step. So I realized, and as I talk to more and more entrepreneurs, just taking that first step, it's not as bad as you think it'll be. So, kind of playing off that, even if you completely fail, you've probably learned a ton along the way, and then you're able to make a better decision. But you're never able to improve if you never get started. So just get started. It's not that bad. Even if you fail, face first. I always say fail forward, learn from it, make the process better, and then keep going. And then another one is, if you're not happy with what you're doing, stop complaining and take control. So you are in control. I know it doesn't always seem that way, but stop complaining, take control. And then the last one really is, this one kind of hit me when I was looking to exit the corporate world. There's 168 hours in every week, and you're going to work, even if you're working in a corporate job, maybe you're working 40 to 60 hours a week. You're probably going to sleep another 40 to 60 hours a week, but that leaves another good, 50 plus hours of free time. So obviously you're going to spend some with your family, but even if you have 20 to 25 hours free each week, start working on what you want to do for the rest of your life. And if it's not what you're doing right now, invest that time, look at the long-term plan, and just get started. There's so many resources out there. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you're listening to a lot of others. I found podcasts so helpful to get me where I want to go. I mean, I listen to them every day, whether I'm running, cutting the grass, doing anything, working. I always have a podcast going because I'm always learning, and just keep investing in yourself.
I haven't listened to the radio in months. I don't know.
Exactly.
All I do is listen to podcasts, man.
I hear you.
We can never say we don't have enough information in today's day and age, that's for sure.
Yeah, between podcasts and Google, you should be able to, you can learn whatever you want for next to nothing. There's enough free information out there to get you started. You just got to put in a little bit of time and effort.
Absolutely, most definitely. So what daily habits make the biggest impact on your life?
I would say wake up early, eat a good breakfast. So the way you start your day, if you start your day off on the right foot, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. So I usually get up about 5 o'clock, not as early as you, Wally, but 5 o'clock, I can get a lot done before most people are even at work. So wake up early, eat a good breakfast, super important to, what you put into your body. It's going to produce a lot more energy and a lot more, focus if you're eating a healthy breakfast. And then really, especially when you're your own boss, even if you're not going back to, what are you going to do with your time? I always set my schedule a week ahead of time and kind of time block everything. So I know from 7 to 10 o'clock I'm working on this, and then from 10 to 12 I'm working on this. And then when you are blocking off that time, always schedule in time for, family and personal time to make sure you're keeping a, decent balance within your lifestyle.
What book would you recommend to men of abundance, and why?
That's a great question, and ever since I've been on this entrepreneurial venture, I'm always reading a book, at least one a month. But probably the one that got me started was The Go-Giver by Bob Burg, I believe. And it's really just a great story about changing your mindset from getting to giving. So when you give first, you're going to get a lot more in return. And then if you're really focused on getting, when you're focused on getting, nothing really ever comes of it. But when you're focused on giving, you're going to get a lot more at the end of the day. So Go-Giver by Bob Burg, definitely recommend it. It's a quick read, great story, and it's one that kind of sparked me on this entrepreneurial venture.
I'll have all the resources and everything that you've just mentioned in the show notes. At the end of Men of Abundance's 12-month anniversary, we are going to be giving to various charities any revenue that we have. So a portion of our revenue is going to go towards various charities. And I give my guests the opportunity to mention a charity that you resonate with, that you would like to give to by name. We'll give on your behalf. So what charity would that be?
Well, that has to be that's a very easy question for me. TGA actually has a 501c3 nonprofit, so it's the TGA Sports Foundation, and we raise funds through that on a local and national level to bring our programs to everybody, regardless of how much they can afford. So we provide financial aid and scholarships to, at-risk youth, disabled youth, and anybody that wants to play, regardless of if they can afford it or not. So TGA Sports Foundation.
And I will have TGA listed on the giving page at menofabundance.com, so you can go there and check that out. So I have one last question for you, Paul. You ready?
I'm ready.
Awesome. What does living a life of abundance mean to you?
Really just doing something that you love while impacting people along the way. I realized, like I said, in corporate America, that it wasn't adding any value to the world. and I was really just building somebody else's business, and really it was just the stockholder's business. So really just doing something you love while impacting others. When you do this, all the other parts of your life are going to be greatly amplified, your personal life, your family life, and you're not going to be dreading Mondays, and you're not going to, Friday afternoons aren't going to be as exciting as they are when you're in corporate America. But every day, I'm super excited about what opportunities are out there. And when you're doing something you love while impacting others, it makes it a lot easier.
So leave us with a parting piece of guidance and a way for others to get a hold of you or, see what you're doing. And if anybody wants any more information about the franchise, if they want to possibly open one up out here in Hawaii, that would be definitely welcome. And I would love to see that.
Yeah, so my parting piece of advice is, you hear it all the time in different contexts, but you only live once. And when you're 80, 90 years old, make sure you have no regrets. If you want to start a business, just go do it, make mistakes, fail, learn from it, dust yourself off, and keep going. So if you want to move. If you want to, stop doing stuff you hate, then stop doing stuff you hate. When it's all said and done, you don't want to have any regrets. So build your dreams, don't build somebody else's. And if you want more information on TGA, head on over to franchisetga.com/MOA for Men of Abundance. So we have a welcome page just for all of your listeners out there. You can schedule a call with me to further discuss the opportunity if you're interested. There's a free survey there to see if it's right for you. And then there's a ton of information on owning a TGA business. If you want to reach out to me personally, Twitter, I'm fairly active on Twitter. My Twitter handle is just my name, Paul Maskill. Or you can reach out to me, email directly. I'm always responding to emails pretty quickly, and that's just pmaskill@playtga.com.
Awesome, Paul. I really appreciate what you do, man, and it's so important to grab a hold of our kids at an early age, get them involved in the community, teach them the stuff that you're teaching them through TGA, and it's just an amazing program. You're an amazing guy, and I truly appreciate your time.
Thank you, Wally. I appreciate you for having me on the show today.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.